Alright, taking a look at an interesting opening hand. Normally you mulligan towards the combo, so to speak, of Lotus Field plus either Strict Proctor or... why can I never remember the name of the card? But here, on the back of Seeing Gigantha, usually that means either Heroic or Sack. So, looks like it's none of the above, but it is Gruul. So, playing a board control game is perfectly fine against them. Sure. That's all they're literally going to do is play a Stone Pawn 1 and opportunity to get our Lotus Field. Do this, sacrifice these two. Set us up to go potentially nuts next turn. Problem with our opponent's hand specifically is these man lands are going to be a bit difficult to manage potentially. So, like, we're going to take a hit for 6, which is not great, but I feel like they're going to play a follow-up threat. Oh, sure. See what our opponent does. They might play around something like the Wandering Emperor here. That's fine. Fairy dies. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Doomscar, hold up March. As we play this, cast the Doomscar, deal with these, hold up the ability to cast March and Memory Deluge without having to resort to shocking ourselves here. Chariot resolves. They shock in here. I mean, another Bone Crusher Giant. Yep, third copy. Okay, up the Beanstalk, onto Inversion. Problem is with Thrill Seeker and Reckless Storm Chaser or whatever it is. They have a decent amount of haste in their deck, in addition to the main lands we have to get around. So Discontinuity is a Cypress Up the Beanstalk. Trigger. Could obviously time walk them, but I think it's much more... I'm much more interested in getting them to play stuff. So... Yep, I'm fine with that. Okay. Beanstalk. So what does our turn look like here? Definitely want to hold up Memory Deluge. So the ability to march either the chariot or one of those. I think we'll just play a basic island and pass. Actually, use this to grab the Seiju. And then pass. Struck Beast is fine. Wait till they go to combat. Deal with that. Deal with one of these. So you hit the 2. I see. And a sack deals damage to any power. So we are dead. was worried about the Thrill Seeker. Alright, we definitely want Ether Gust. Don't know that Leyline really does enough in this kind of matchup. Down one Beanstalk, go down one Undo Inversion, call it a game, or sideboard. This matchup has proven to be a bit trickier than I would think, simply because of the haste in the vehicles. Alright, this hand is pretty good. Ether Gust is a new addition to this version of the deck. Previously I had it in the Beanstalk and the normal 60 card version, but when I was doing the 3-3 Leyline split, there wasn't room for the way the sideboard was constructed to get Ether Gust in the matchup, or for like mono green for this style of matchup. So, new addition to the list, a little bit more early interaction, or I should say return to the list. But, yeah. Feel like we need a little bit more in the mono green matchup, and I don't know that 3 Leylines is enough to significantly swing the Greasefang matchup for it to be favorable and worth the sideboard slots currently, especially for the amount I see it on the ladder, or lack thereof. So. Okay, do we Ether Gust this elf? Mm-hmm. Okay, and pass. Mm-hmm. Let's get there off. There is such thing. I think they missed out on a point of damage last turn. Sure. Okay, Pockets to get in a ton of damage here. Okay, play that out. Go ahead and hit everything. Hazoret, now that is a problem. Oh, let's wait till the end step. So shuffle the Hazoret as well as don't know that lay down arms is quite good enough here. So that's okay. They still have a chance, but I guess they chose to give up here. Another Thrill Seeker off the top could have gotten them there potentially. Hard to say. Ian has lay down arms, but not a whole lot else going for it. I'll try it. Probably put back, what, Dominaria? them down. Beanstalk trigger. Some random casting list during your turn. Still triggers up the beanstalk. Grab Thespian stage. And opponent scoops. Nice win. Alright, match 2. Yep, it's got pretty much your ideal opening with this deck, so. It even has a little bit of Thoughtseize insurance, but usually Yorion represents fires, so that is one of the other advantages of this, is Yorion does throw people a little bit off. So angels, perhaps. Go ahead and foretell this Doomscar. Angels confirmed. Strict Proctor is ironically very good against angels, keeps a lot of their triggers from happening, buys you a little bit of time. It doesn't keep Giada's ability from triggering, but because it's not technically a trigger, but it does keep like the Lakeane ability is a Valkyrie from triggering without paying the mana. Okay. Cast Deluge. That's the Thespian stage. Use Doomscar. Teferi. I was going to say, this is where the game starts to get very, very boring. Don't really have anything to bring in for this matchup, but this matchup should be reasonable enough on its own. It's one of the matchups. Did a lot of work with Green White Angels a couple months ago, and like Collected Company and Kalia's Reconstruction can do a good bit against Wraths, but this particular blue-white that's playing like even more board wipes than normal just simply can go, you know, as long as you don't get like EOT Collected Company into lethal, it generally, or you know how your opponent goes, Collected Company on step, you have to Wrath, they Collected Company on your end step again, you know, that kind of stuff. But it was a match I did lose in the arena qualifier last month, or a couple months ago, so it is nevertheless a matchup that I try to play particularly closely. But this deck tends to do well against the slower creature decks, can sometimes struggle against, you know, heroic and humans and spirits, but does well against angels, Rakdos mid, Rakdos sack. You know, decks that are somewhat board centric but somewhat mid range. This deck definitely tends to prey on, or at least is built to prey on, whether it ends up being the result or not. So. One matchup that I felt a little lacking was mono green. Both the statistics, I think it was Frank Karsten or MTG Decks, one of the two, showed this style of matchup being a little bit in mono green's favor, which feels about right. Like it's like a 45-55 matchup. You know, it felt really close to what the matchup is. So, adding a little bit of insurance in that matchup that also happened to hit Gruul vehicles felt pretty reasonable. So, I wonder if we're getting roped or if our opponent's actually considering things. It's one of those things, like, if you are roping your opponent, it's like, I understand you're trying to teach your opponent a lesson, but all you're doing is just wasting both people's time and energy. You know, when I sit down to play Control, especially on Arena, it's just like, yeah, I understand this is going to be a slog, and, you know, I'm prepared for that mentally, so you're not, like, getting any psychological points. You're just wasting your time and my time. So, not to say they didn't disconnect or have some issues, especially if they're playing on their phone. I've certainly had to leave matches because I was trying to play at not the most opportune times or somebody needed something, so can't always presume, especially when they did actually say hello in the first match, but or first game. But who is that? So yep, and my opponent roped themselves, so on to the next match. Back for the third match this time. This hand just doesn't do anything. This hand is also a bit problematic, so mulligan. This hand has most of what we're looking for. So we definitely put back Shark Typhoon. I think unfortunately we have to put back Up the Beanstalk. So mono red. Okay. This is actually a style of matchup that I kind of want to test against. Because I think one of this deck's weaknesses is aggressive decks with haste. So Alright, so trigger this. Put the trigger on the stack. Resolve. So if we had the bean, we would draw 2 cards over Teferi. Like, normally I don't think about pitching Teferi, as Teferi is definitely one of the linchpins of the deck, but I do wonder if we had Up the Beanstalk this particular draw, if we'd be a little bit better off card advantage wise. So do that, do this, sack these 2, and hope we can pull away before our opponent reestablishes too much of a board. Okay, so definitely need to find one of our sweepers. Question is, do they just go face? Yep, they're going face. Should have played that first. Alright, at least that'll keep something like Embercleave from being lethal this turn. Okay, puts us to 1. It's a heck of a turn. They have a Bone Crusher Giant or if they have something here, we're just dead at some point, so. Yep. Alright, so bring in some number of ley lines. Go down the beans. Another matchup where having Dromoka available would make the deck a good bit better. Play first. Keep. Firebrand. A little late to the party, but Felton's just annoying enough. It's like one of the perfect cards I could draw. Except it only kind of helps. Of so trigger them, cast their Bone Crusher Giant Stomp. Yeah, Torbrand's pretty rough. What land is most advantageous for us? Probably Thespian stage. Play out stage. Yeah, that's certainly a relevant card. Trigger. I got the Teferi. Definitely not blinking out late last Sanctity. Okay, that's decent. Okay. So we're going to take 3 to equip. Dig deeper. Shark Typhoon, Discontinuity. Play that tapped. I guess means they're trying to go for Deluge. I mean, if they have a 6/6, we have both Beseju and Wandering Emperor to answer any type of hasty nonsense. Sure. Alright. Nice to at least get a win in this matchup. I'm a dodo bird. Let's leave Ether Gust on the sideboard, right? And then he just is too dangerous. Only on one land. Okay. It's got 6 power in play. Okay, so we're probably going to get run out of the building before we actually do anything. Two, 4, 7, 9. If they add anything more to the board, we're dead. That definitely qualifies as something more to the board. So, yep, mono red, bit of a rough matchup. Not surprising. Anything with haste is a bit of a struggle for this deck. Alright, so we're back with the quick wrap with more Lotus Field Bean. I think this is a format warping deck, not really by any means. It is still very much what blue-white Lotus Field or blue-white control decks with Yorion are. That is, they are mid-range hunters. They are decks that prey upon anything from Rakdos mid through Red Fire's variants. On either extremes of the format, whether it be traditional blue-white control or is it creativity with Hullbreaker or spirits and rogues, mono white humans, hasty red decks, all of which are a bit of a headache. You're a bit of a dog in those matchups. Mono green feels probably fairly close. Maybe we're a slight dog in that matchup. And then Rakdos sack, Rakdos mid, the Fire's variance is where this deck is most comfortable existing. One change I made this time, I think we talked about during the video, was adding the 4th copy of Leyline Sanctity. That doesn't help tremendously in the Rakdos matchups, like adding the 4th copy. It does basically effectively bring you to what 3 would be in a 60 card deck. But since I was going to add Ether Gust to the deck to add a little bit more utility against mono green specifically, but also has the utility in other matchups like Gruul and Mono Red. You know, I was really kind of missing these, and it gives you eight early interaction spells in the early game. As once you get past turn 4, this deck really starts, you know, kind of powering through with what it does. But just having that setup of turn 2, you know, whatever play, turn 3 setup, turn 4, you know, you actually start your casting your Doomskars or your Farewells or your Teferis and kind of going from there. And you want another thing to bridge those early games against, specifically the red aggressive decks, as they're a little bit problematic with the haste. But I do like where this deck is headed. I don't think it's a completely finished product yet. I don't think it's the best deck in the format by any means, but it can certainly hang with a lot of the mid-range boys. You're a little bit of a dog to the aggressive decks, a little bit of a dog to the combo decks. Obviously, Lotus Field normal combo is not really part of the Explorer meta yet, but it is getting there, as it's really, I think, only missing Hidden Strings and Dramoka as key cards that see a lot of play in it. So, yeah, that's certainly a deck that will be coming to the format. And then, obviously, Izzet Phoenix is missing, you know, Treasure Cruise and Temporal Trespass. So, format's getting very close to being almost full power. I think the only major card Rakdos is missing is Dreadbore. Blue Eye Control has most of their cards. Spirits has most of their cards. You know, most of the tribal decks are almost at full strength. So, you know, while it's not quite the Pioneer format, it's pretty darn close, and I do think this deck has fared pretty well so far in our limited testing with it. So definitely be continuing to work on this a little bit for the foreseeable future, as it's certainly a deck I enjoy. And, you know, maybe Up the Beanstalk will be broken in another format like it is in Modern. But like this kind of Explorer content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you for our next video.